All right, call the Osseo City Council regular meeting to order here on Monday, March 10th at 7 p.m. Roll call, looks like we're missing Councilmember Hallstrom this evening. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Look for a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
So moved.
Okay, got a motion by Councilmember Schultz to approve tonight's agenda. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Cook. Any further discussion? See none, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes 4-0. All right, number 5, consent agenda. Any questions on that? If not, we look for a motion.
So moved.
All right, got a motion by Councilmember Cook to approve tonight's consent agenda. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Torres. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes 4-0. All right, next is matters from the floor. Anyone wishing to speak, please step forward, state your name and address, and address the council on any matter you wish. Chair will attempt to answer your questions. We'll consider those at future council meetings. Is there any matters on the floor?
Thanks for your time, guys. My name's Mark Regan. Born and bred in Osseo, 62. I own a liquor store across the street, and I'm asking for a parking spot on the north side of my building, out that door there, for liquor store and delivery parking only. Not just for me and the whole world, but, it's just, we got 10 deliveries a week. Duffy's has a bunch of them. I talked to Josh. He's all in favor. They're parking everywhere. You know what I mean? We give them the bank lot. I give Duffy half my lot. I'm just looking for some respect so we can use that for delivery and liquor store customers. Otherwise, that's what I'm looking for. It'd be nice, and that's just not for me. Deliveries, and if you want to pick up food, but who's going to police this thing? Would that be me putting a sign up, or I know the only one you gave it out would be for, I think it was Mike at the shoe shop. Back in the day, he got one. But, we put $200,000 in that bank lot, family, you know what I mean? And we let them use that. I pick up garbage there all day long. Duffy's too. We knocked that pole over, that light pole, in my property. And that one between my driveways, shouldn't be a parking spot. Where that new light pole is, you spent 10 grand on it twice. That should be a parking spot. I mean, it can be, but you can't come in and out of there. Everybody comes in Duffy's, goes out mine. They're turned around in the fire department, big semis. And, Dick's, Wiley owns Dick's parking lot. He's owned it forever. And he charges Billy forever, now the new people, but I don't charge Duff for nothing. But it's just, it just got to be a little game over there. They park there just to piss me off, which is fine. I play well with people in the sandbox, but I'm just looking for a sign there. It says liquor store, delivery only, 15 minutes, you know what I mean? So if you guys could, think about that and let me know. I appreciate your time.
Any other matters to the floor? Third time matters to the floor. All right, matters to the floor are now closed. Moving on, special business presentation by CCX. Welcome.
Hello, everybody. My name is Shannon Slatin-Schwartz. I'm the Executive Director of CCX Media. Been around for 17 years, but this guy needs no introduction. Dave Kaiser, been around for
About 40 years now.
years. He serves as our Government and Community Affairs Liaison, so we're glad to be here tonight. Just wanted to update you a little bit on where CCX is and what we're up to right now. On the screen, you'll see our coverage area. We cover the 9 cities north of 394 and west of Highway 100. This is an area of about 350,000 people. So in terms of PEG, which is Public Education and Government Television, we are second in the state, right between Minneapolis and St. Paul. 40 years ago, our founders came together and decided to make a joint powers agreement and a commission because we have stories to tell in this neck of the woods, and we continue to tell those stories. Speaking of stories, we have a news department, a traditional news department that goes out and tells stories every day in our community. You might be surprised to learn that development stories are always popular. People want to know what's going on, what's coming in right down the street, and even better if it's a restaurant. So two of the stories that did really well lately were Duffy's expanding their kitchen and Dick's Bar getting new owners. And that's an example of that. Dave, you want to talk about sports?
Certainly will. As you know, sports a big item that we cover throughout the 9 cities in our area and about 16 high schools in that area, and Osseo High School being one of those. So proud to cover the Orioles. You see the results on one of the basketball games we had this year. And again, all seasons, most sports either covered full game coverage with our trucks or highlights with our sports crew. Then we'll move ahead to cities and talk about what we're doing right here tonight. So we have crew calling behind the wall here covering this meeting. And again, government transparency, very important. So this allows us to be able to let people know in the communities what's going on. We also work with your staff to produce stories about city programs, city events you have to help make sure they're promoted.
So we covered 54 meetings for you guys last year, and you might be surprised to learn that out of all the cities and all the views, you guys are close to the top. So you have a very informed citizenry who is checking into your meetings. You might not know that we have a traditional public access department, so if you're a resident of one of our cities or Osseo, you can come learn the art of television or podcast production, and then you can come and use our services for free, our studios for free, and put your podcast or television show on the web. Here's a few that are in production right now. So last year, volunteers created 595 programs there at the studio. And then we have a creative services arm, and this was born because we had people come and ask for different video services, and we really didn't have a way to fit it into everything else. So this is state of the city addresses. If a city or a school district has an internal speaker that they want recorded for VOD, we can do that too. So we have clients like Anoka Hennepin Schools, North Memorial, as well as a few cities around here. One thing I think that makes us stand out is we are available anywhere and everywhere and all for free. We know we put out a lot of really important information, and we want that to be as accessible as possible. So on your screen, you'll see all the different ways that you can see our stories, our sports coverage, and then some of your city council meetings too. And finally, we are here tonight to talk specifically about a sheet that was in your packet called Funding and Policy Needed to Save Community Media. Our funding is on the decline, as you might know. We are funded by cable franchise fees, so every time someone cuts the cord on cable television, our funding goes down. It peaked in 2017, and since then we've lost about 35% of our funding. And while we have tried to absorb as much of that as we can by eliminating positions, doing sports sponsorships and some ad sales, we just can't replace what is lost. So we are looking to the legislature with help for modernizing our funding model.
And talk about 2 aspects of that, and thanks to the League of Minnesota Cities, they are a big partner in what we do and in pushing for these bills. And they have put together some information that just went out. There's 2 bills. The one is Equal Access to Broadband Act, and I'll just mention a couple of the key points. By granting cities broadband franchising authority, which again has been in place for 40 years for cable TV, this would require broadband providers to meet build-out requirements in underserved areas, ensure cities receive reasonable compensation for use of the right-of-way. And again, that's the big point of how franchise fees first came to be. Support community media efforts similar to the authority cities already have under the Minnesota Cable Act. And finally, improve city control over public rights-of-ways and help fund access television. So again, if you're interested in more information, League of Minnesota Cities bulletin that came out today has both bills highlighted there. And the second is more of a stopgap. Maybe Shannon, if you want to mention what we're looking for with that bill.
Sure, we have a ask out to the Legacy Committee with an amount that hasn't quite been determined yet that would go to community television stations around the state, and it would be something of a stopgap measure for the next 2 years to help just help make ends meet because stations are closing around the state. So we're working on that while we're working on more long-term efforts as well. We're fortunate to have good legislative support in this area. We have a good relationship with our legislators, but should we need to reach out and ask for a letter or support from the city of Osseo, we would definitely hope to get it. Do you guys have any questions or anything else you want to know more about?
Questions, Council? No? Thank you.
Good
Appreciate
deal.
it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving on, 7B, presentation of police officer awards.
Mayor, council, we have in front of us tonight, we have Officer Christopher Petrinsky. I got him, I'm gonna get it one of these days. I got Zitzelsberger. You got that one, and then Officer Brett Letourneau. What I want you to see here is just a video. We're gonna start with this, and just on November 16th, 2024, there was a traffic stop, on County Road 81, just east of 85th. And we'll start with Officer Letourneau's body cam video. That's just the setup, so that gives you the date and the time, and you can just watch what happens.
Second verse, same as the first.
Now you can see that the rear squad was hit and then pushed into the front squad and at our officers, who you saw Officer Letourneau make a good barrel roll. And now that car went past the traffic stop, and as you'll see here on the video, you'll see the car starts on fire, and Officer Petrinsky goes running up. After almost being hit, opens the door and gets the driver out from a fully engulfed vehicle.
6614, we got one on fire. Trying to get somebody out of it. Started an ambulance and fire station.
So he kept his cool. He was on field training, brand new or newer. And now we were able to get somebody out of the vehicle and away. And now I want you to see Officer Zitzelsberger's video. And you'll see how close this actually was to injuring one of our officers here that night. And you can see there's quite a distance in between the squad cars and how hard this hit. That's the other squad. What, a foot and a half? And then they were able to get their wits about them and then go save somebody out of a burning vehicle. Thank you, Natalie. Okay. So, as you can see, our officers acted appropriately. They acted as they should and as they've been trained. Even our rookie on field training put his life on the line after, again, almost getting hit and keeping his composure and running up to a car that was fully engulfed in flames. When Officer Petrinsky and Letourneau arrived, they positioned their squad car behind Officer Zitzelsberger with their emergency lights flashing. As they stood there, you could see they were outside the squad. They were discussing the traffic stop when a drunk driver rear-ended the back squad car. And you could see it hit our squad, which then hit the first squad, which then almost hit the officers. Thankfully, they all got out of the way. They were a little bit hurt. I know that barrel roll, there was some conversations. Even Officer Zitzelsberger, I mean, it came so close. It's like you could see all of a sudden she just, oh boy. I mean, a foot and a half from a moving car is pretty exciting anyway. So the driver vehicle was lucky to walk away without injury. It is very likely that if Officer Petrinsky didn't take the actions he did, the alcohol-impaired driver may not have survived if he didn't act quick. Officers Petrinsky, Zitzelsberger, and Letourneau did an excellent job managing a chaotic scene, attempting to extinguish the flames on the burning vehicle, checking the welfare of the occupants of the vehicle from the original traffic stop, and managing the scene until other first responders could arrive, which meant fire and EMS. So tonight, we are awarding these officers. The first, it is a Department Commendation Award presented to Officer Brett Letourneau in recognition of exemplary leadership and performance during a chaotic and dangerous incident that occurred on November 16th, 2024. Congratulations. To Officer Madeline Zitzelsberger, in recognition of exemplary leadership and performance during a chaotic and dangerous incident that occurred on November 16th, 2024. Congratulations. And Officer Petrinsky, this is a life-saving award. In recognition of the selfless acts of rendering life-saving aid to others in a time of need, awarded on this day, the 10th day of March, 2025. And as you can see, he gets an award and then a pin to wear on your uniform for all time.
Thank you.
Congratulations. What I'd like you guys to do is come up, we'll take some pictures if the council wouldn't mind coming down. Todd, can you take pictures of the people here in support? Go ahead and stand up.
Come on, Stan.
Just a couple of phones.
Yeah, everybody get close, come on. We're all-
I'm surprised it wasn't my job.
That is grace under pressure.
All right, 7C, rescind special assessment from Hennepin County.
Mayor, council, we need to rescind a special assessment on a delinquent utility bill. So on chapter 13, vacancy filing was, and repayment plan was approved in August of 2024 for a property at 624 Second Avenue Northeast. And the city was made aware of the bankruptcy filing and the approved repayment plan on this property. We assessed it, with the delinquent utility bill, and the chapter 13 United States Bankruptcy Code provides that if a debtor adheres to the terms of the repayment plan, remaining dischargeable debt will be released. At the end of the plan, an assessed fee for delinquent utility fees should not be applied until a discharge or remaining debt has been granted. Staff did not realize the delinquent utility fees could not be assessed to the property. For the city to rescind the assessment on the property, council needs to pass a resolution. So we're asking you to adopt the resolution rescinding the special assessment of delinquent utility fees to 624 Second Avenue Northeast.
Questions, council? Now we look for motion.
Mr. Mayor, make a motion to adopt the resolution rescinding the special assessment of delinquent utility fees to 624 Second Avenue Northeast.
I got a motion by Councilmember Schultz to rescind the special assessment. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Cook. Any further discussion?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I don't think that we've ever, in the time that I've sat here,
Yeah.
we've never had to do this.
Nope.
And that's, pushing 15 years now, so
Yeah.
that's pretty good.
Yeah. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Roll.
Aye.
Roll. It's a resolution.
Oh, it's a resolution.
Oh.
This will be resolution number 11. Councilmember Schultz,
Aye.
Councilmember Cook,
Aye.
Councilmember Torres,
Aye.
Mayor Poppy.
Aye, motion passes 4-0. All right, 7D, approve submittal of cannabis application and memorandum of understanding.
Whoa, hold on.
Yeah, wait a second. I get,
We're Roman Consultants, but we're public hearings, old business still.
yeah, this is all mixed up
Got a
here.
little excited.
No,
That's
this is
okay.
all- Here we go. That's not on the agenda. There we go. Number 8, no public hearings this evening. Number 9, old business. 9A, approve Rum River Consultant Building Official Permitting Contract.
Mayor, council, this is something that Assistant City Administrator Alicia Vickerman has been working on for some time. At the February 24th City Council meeting, it was discussed that the city staff would like to explore changing inspection vendors and expanding our services with Rum River Consultants. There are only a few building inspection companies operating locally. The only viable options are Metro West, our current contractor, and Rum River Consultants. The primary difference between the two is that Rum River Consultants is a professional consulting firm, and Metro West is a minimum service provider. Metro West handles the field work, but city staff handles all the administrative duties. In the proposed arrangement with Rum River, they would handle the field and administrative duties, as well as coming equipped with user-friendly software. So if we look at our budget, Metro West details 32% of fees collected for building fees and plan review. These are on more of your day-to-day operations. Their fees do go up if it's a bigger plan or if it's an issue with like a big development, that would go up. But their 2025 budgeted revenue for building permits is $75,000, so that would be $24,000 going to the contractor. Approximately, what they estimate is about $30,000 in staff hours and permit review and correspondence. And then they also have to do that manual payments. They have to be processed by city staff, which we see some issues with that, especially with writing down credit card numbers and having to go back and run after the permit's been given the total amount. So it's been kind of a clunky system for some time. Rum River, we do have to pay 80% of the fees collected for building fees and plan review. And so if you look at our 2025 budgeted revenue for building permits at $75,000, that's $60,000 would go to the contractor. If you look at the $30,000 plus the $24,000, now you're talking right around $54,000 in monies that we would be using anyway with staff hours, and our staff hours would be cut almost to nothing. There would be some, but until we get into it, everything would be done online. We would kind of be a facilitator, and that's it. So you saw the baseline software for our rental program at the last council meeting, kind of a demonstration on how that works. And they would be navigated from the city website to that baseline software, which would then send everything to where it needs to be. Rum River would audit the fee schedule, which I think was some of the audit changes, or actually changes were in your council packet to help with the fees, and present proposed changes to city council, resulting in more accurate and consistent fees with current trends and other cities. Right now, what we would like to do as staff is that to submit a written 90-day notice to Metro West to terminate the contract for building inspection services and enter negotiations with Rum River Consultants. Is there any questions from council?
Questions?
Mr. Mayor, first I want to thank Administrator Michelson for getting that extra data that we asked for from the last meeting. I think it's really important to note this $30,000 in staff hours that we're going to be clawing back, because when we do put those numbers together, we're within $6,000. And if you consider that not only are we going to save that in staff hours, but now that time represents time that we get back, or staff gets back to work on other things. So to me, that seems like a double win. It's not only getting a much better product with the software and all these additional things. So I just kind of wanted to point that out, that I think when we actually dive into these numbers, while it sounds like it's more expensive, we're actually at an advantage doing this. So, thank you.
Mr. Mayor? Yep. I'd like to add to that as well. If we looked at, a lot of communities that are larger than ours have this type of a position, probably one, two, multiple people. We'd be, even at one person, by the time you dealt with the software and all the other stuff, I think we're probably, in this case, probably saving close to, well, if not exceeding a couple $100,000 a year to put that in there. And that's just not responsible use of funds with our city at this point in time. So I'm really excited about this opportunity, not only to be able to reappropriate those staff hours to other projects, which is great, but also being able to increase the user friendliness of our permitting department and really getting some accomplished professionals to do this, especially with some of the larger projects that we've got coming up over the course of the next couple of years. So I think that you call this a double win. I'd say it's a triple, maybe even a quadruple win at that point.
Any other comments? If not, we'll look for a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion that we approve, how do I word this?
Page
That we-
48, if you
we
want, there's a
approve,
suggested motion.
Canceling or discontinuing the Metro West contract and now move forward with doing a contract with RRC.
Okay, I've got a motion by Councilmember Torres to advise city staff to submit a written 90-day notice to Metro West Inspection and to terminate the contract for building inspection service and enter negotiation with Rum River Consultings LLC. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Schultz. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes 4-0. All right, 9B. Accept bids and declare costs and call public hearings for the alley reconstruction. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. This evening, there are a few items that I'd like to discuss with the council with respect to the project and a few matters of business to perform. So with this year's alley project, I think we're all very familiar with the 7 alleys proposed within the project. The improvements include reconstruction of the alleys, replacing the bituminous pavement with concrete pavement, extending storm sewer, and then also coordinating with private utilities, particularly Excel, and some of the utility poles they have within the corridor. The alley section, we're proposing a 12-foot wide alley with the exception of the northern end of Alley 5, which will taper down to 10 feet. And that would be within a 16-foot wide easement. Right-of-way and easements, all the permanent improvements within the proposed project would be within a right-of-way or easement area. We have the alleys, Alley 5. We have the one easement that was necessary to complete that. We obtained that earlier, actually late last year. And then we also sent out right of entry requests to 29 property owners. And this is in instances where, while the permanent improvements will be within that easement area, in order for the contractor to perform the work, we anticipate that some of that work, because it's only 16 feet wide, very narrow, that work would extend outside of that 16-foot wide easement. So these right of entry forms were sent out to property owners along with a letter explaining the genesis for the request. And we've received, I think we're at 12 or 13 now. So some good response rates on that already. The bids were open March 4th, and I'm very pleased to say that you received 12 bids. That's a large number of bids for a project, so congratulations on that. The low bid was $750,546.39 from Oman Brothers. Oman Brothers, while they have not done any work within the city of Osseo, the project manager that prepared the plans and specifications, Ms. Jen Edison, has had extensive work with Oman Brothers and is comfortable with them being able to perform the work. So we're not looking to award the contract yet this evening, but I did include the letter of recommendation with the council packet, and happy to answer any questions or gather more information if the council would like staff to do so. And the low bid was under the opinion of probable costs that was pulled together before the bid. So I think you can feel very confident that with 12 bidders and a price at $750,000 and change, that you've had a lot of good eyes on this project. The proposed funding is going to take the bulk of my presentation and discussion this evening. So here, included in these costs is not only the bid price, but also we put a 5% contingency and 25% indirect costs to both the surface improvements, which would be the alley improvements, the accessible portion of the project, and then also the storm sewer cost. So we're looking at different funding sources with either the road fund and special assessments for the surface improvements, and then the storm sewer fund could be utilized to pay for the storm sewer improvements. Again, as I mentioned, a portion of the project cost is proposed to be assessed to benefiting properties. We pull this from Minnesota State Statutes, Chapter 429. And we also reference the city's policy of 80%. As council may recall, when the feasibility report was brought through, the assessments were proposed, individual assessments for each alley. So each alley would have a different assessment amount per resident or per property that was adjacent to the alley. And then the remaining surface costs would be paid by the city. Again, 100% of public utility improvement costs would be paid by the city. With the estimated assessments, preliminary assessment amounts that were presented with the feasibility report, there was some discussion from the council that those assessment amounts were getting higher than anticipated. And I have some information both was included in the packet and in the presentation as was presented previously on the assessment amounts from the 2022 project, which was the last alley project that was performed in the city, so that council could have just kind of a full picture of, you know, what does the city's assessment policy look like applied to this project versus where past project assessments were at. So with that, as I mentioned in the council packet this evening, due to the tight timeline, the Tuesday bid opening and the Wednesday packet, we didn't have the estimated final assessments available for per alley. So that 80%, that top line, is each alley assessment based on 80% assessed. And then on the very on the very right-hand column, I have what's the approximate city costs for the alley based on that methodology. And I say approximate because when we run these numbers, we run the assessments and you round up to, round up or down. So I just wanted to give council a ballpark on what the estimated city cost would be. So as there's a conversation takes place this evening, the council has that full picture on what the financial implications are, and then looking for direction from the council this evening. So again, when I looked at getting some different scenarios through here, I didn't want to deluge the council with different assessment alternatives. I thought that an assessment alternative to look at 60% would give council some good numbers to consider, as well as 50%. And then at the bottom, I have for reference what the feasibility estimated preliminary assessments were with the feasibility report. And then also noting what the 2022 average assessment was, and then inflating that 4% per year. So that's one option that the council could look at. I know I've provided you with a lot of information with this one, and then if the council would allow me to just go through the second option that you might want to consider with when it comes to assessment methodology, if it's all right with you, Mr. Mayor, I think that might be a good time to pause in the presentation and have that conversation. Oops. Okay. So this was the second one, and this was one option that was mentioned at when we discussed the feasibility report, was having one assessment amount. And so with that, what I did is I took 80% of the total surface costs to replace the alley, and then divided that equally among the 56 properties within the project, and that got you $8,667. And then, as you can see, the total estimated cost for the city remains the same because your assessment, it's still an 80% assessment methodology. And then again, numbers for 60% and 50%. And the correlating cost to the city, again, that would remain unchanged. And then I also put the 2022 average assessment inflated 4% per year for council consideration. So there's two components to this discussion. One would be what assessment percentage would the council be comfortable with, and then what methodology would you want to pursue? Would you like to look at all properties within the project paying the same amount, which is on this slide, or would council like to see an assessment methodology where each alley has its own unique assessment amount? Before I ask if Mr. Mayor would like to have a conversation with this, just to give council a little bit of background on why we're seeing some of these, particularly Alley 7, the high assessment amounts. So the team went ahead and looked at what's the differentiator on that alley. And Alley's, let's grab my notes here. Alley's, you look at the total number of properties on there, and then the removals are what changes that. So you'll have fence removal and replacement, driveway removal and replacement. So that's where we're seeing some of those costs go up on that alley. And particularly alleys 6 and 7, if I remember correctly, those are the alleys that only have, I think, 6 properties on each alley. So there's not a lot of properties to spread that assessment out among. So with that, Mr. Mayor, I'd be happy to facilitate any discussion that the council may have or any questions that the council may have at this time with assessment methodologies and options to consider.
Mr. Mayor, hello, Allison. Do we still have, I think it was like 150-ish thousand left from last year's street project from that bond? I thought there was some money still floating around with that.
Mr. Mayor?
Yep.
Councilman Torres, I can answer that for you. We're going to have that discussion separately as far as financing this, but this is more about just the assessment value. But we do have money left over, and I can give you that 680,000-ish. We don't have a perfect number right now, but that's about where we're at. And so on the thought process is to bring that back on the April 14th agenda and talk about financing and how we want to use that for the city's financing of this project.
Okay. And just so I'm clear, new guy question. So if any of that money was used, does that change, would change these assessment numbers, right? Or no?
So typically, we don't want to mix financing with assessments, so you pick out what the assessment is.
Okay.
So let's just say, let me, just as an example, if you do the 80%, that means the city's cost is 121,300. We're still gonna, we could bond, we could use that 680 to cover, we're gonna cover the whole cost up front because these assessments come in at different times. And so what you're doing is you're picking the assessment amount for the person, and then we're gonna finance the whole thing. How we do that is separate from assessments.
Gotcha.
They're two separate issues within a street project, and we typically don't have another bond to talk about, and that's where this one gets a little different, I think, than what you're normally used to as far as street projects or alley projects. And so I just don't get those two confused, because we still have to finance the whole thing up front, the city does, and then we receive those assessments after, I don't know how long, is it 20 year? 10? I can't remember how many years.
It's an annual repayment based on what's assessed, and so that's prorated across the term of the assessment that we set at that time.
Okay, I don't know what.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, in the resolution, we had a 15-year assessment period.
So that takes us that long to gain all that money. But so we have to finance the whole thing, and then we gain those assessments back and help us pay off the bonds and pieces like
The
that.
discussion tonight is what assessment route are we gonna do?
Got it. All right, thank you. That answers my question really well. Thank you.
Anything else?
Mr. Mayor. So in looking at, I mean, some of the past conversations regarding this is how we allocate some of those leftover funds that need to be spent by the end of the year. So that can be, I mean, we can use that in several different ways. And I think we'll dig into more into this. And this is a preliminary assessment. So what we decide we're going to do is not a final assessment. So at that was it April you said what the meeting is for that one?
Well, that'll be for the financing part. The assessment part would be finalized.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, we would be looking to hold the assessment hearing on April 14th.
The same night.
Okay, so I mean, that's, you know, to that point, this whole thing, we have to figure out how to pay for it, and it's really kind of going to be a conversation of if we're going to borrow the money or utilize that money. Ultimately, we're going to have to figure out how to cover the upfront costs for this and then regain that over time. You know, I like the concept specifically with this, since they're here, everything is mobilized. I think there's a good argument for us to look at possibly doing a lower assessment percentage. I do have some hesitancy regarding that simply because we would be changing our current assessment policy for this particular project. So I'm always reluctant to change those policies for one project, because then the people that had to pay more, then they'd be like, well, why do I have to pay more? And then you don't have to pay as much. And so then we dig into that part of it for sure. And these are just basic, I mean, I think these are preliminary assessment numbers, correct?
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Schultz, these assessment numbers presented to you are based on the bid costs.
Okay.
So, so the direction would be whatever council directs as far as assessment methodology, we would go and prepare the final assessment rolls and do the advertisements and provide the assessment notices to the residents based on council's direction.
Yeah, it's really between per alley or divided amongst everyone. That's really the,
Nice question.
yep.
And this is just a clarification question that I'm understanding this correctly. I own a house on Alley 7. Okay, at feasibility here 80%. It's my Alley 7's assessment's going to be $10,310. Okay, that $10,310 is going to be paid over a course of 15 years.
Yep.
In a probably it is part of your monthly mortgage or whatever, if you calculated it that way or whatever. It's about $57 a month over that 15-year period for a house in Alley 7. If you do it that way, if you do it just one assessment per, everybody's paying the same no matter what, then it's about $48 a month. And I just think it's important as we talk about this stuff to put it in context that homeowners can understand and that makes sense to them. And because when we live in a world right now where people are worried about affording eggs, you know what I mean? And in all seriousness, this is what we're seeing. We need to make sure that we are putting this in as plain terms as possible for our citizens in the city to say, yes, I know this sounds like this. This is how it affects you month to month, year to year, so on and so forth. And I think if we are transparent about that and we're honest about that and we're upfront about that, I think that helps ease some of the concerns and the burden, I guess. And so I guess that's just what I keep thinking about this from the perspective of the people who live on those alleys, and they're going to see some of these numbers and they're going to go, what the heck are you talking about? Like, and understanding that, no, this is over a 15-year period of time. It's this, it's that, just making sure that we're providing the citizens of our city with as much transparent information in a way that they can understand, not in some complex chart graph situation that they're going to look, that some, 65-year-old on Alley 7 is going to look at and go, what are you talking about? Like, and so, or some 23-year-old or whoever owns the home. It doesn't matter. I just really want to, I understand where we're at. I understand this needs to be done. I understand that sooner the better, all of those things. But we are in a financially scary time right now for a lot of people. And so adding things to their plate we have to be really, really clear with what we're adding and why we're adding it and how we're adding it. I think we owe that to the people of the city. So that's all I want to say.
Mr. Mayor, so when I'm looking at the chart we're looking at right now, and there was the differential, and one, if I understood correctly, the reason Alley 7 is significantly higher than Alley 1 is because there are more houses on Alley 1 than there are on Alley 7. That's the first part of my question. Is that right?
Yes. I can, if I pull up, I should have put it on here. Oh, it's not great to see. But if you look on Alley 1 versus I think Alley 1 has 8. Mm-hmm. I can certainly look that up, but certainly the number of units next to the alley makes a difference. I can pull it up here in a moment.
And then, finish finding that there was 6 on 7.
Yeah, I think it was 6 and 7. There were 2 alleys that had okay, here we are.
Oh, I found it. Yeah.
That is so there's only 3 on one side as opposed to 5 on the other. So, but if I'm looking at this and it's more or less to scale, each of these alleys is pretty much the same length. Is that a correct assumption?
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Torres, I think that, and I don't have the alley naming, no, wait, just a moment here. There are some alleys that are a little bit shorter. So I think alleys, if I remember correctly, alleys 3, 6, and 7, I believe are, oh, pardon me. 3, 4, 6, and 7, I think are shorter than the other 3 alleys.
So, to my colleagues up here, that actually presents kind of a little bit of a weirdness because you've got shorter alleys that cost more money, and I'm not saying either which. I haven't decided yet. I don't know which way is the right way. This is going to be my first challenge, but I think that's something that we got to think about too, because we've got less people, but they actually have a smaller alley. But then I get the argument that, okay, well, if you got a larger house and you're getting, quote unquote, more alley, you should pay a little more because you have the bigger house. But that's why I asked that question, because it would have been a nice, easier thing to think about it as like, yeah, it's more expensive because it's longer, irrespective of how many people are there. So just another.
I think, I can verify this, but I think the lot sizes are all similar in this area, so there's not a lot of big discrepancy of lineal feet in each alley, and that's why it was brought up to, do we just blend it over the entire project area and just average it out for everyone?
That helps. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That helps me, at least me. That helps a lot.
Mr. Mayor?
Yep.
Allison, I was just had a question. Is there a fee or a percent if they don't pay it up front? There is some sort of, I just wanted Councilmember Cook to know that if they pay it over 15 years, there are some fees presented as far as like an interest rate.
Yeah, it's based on the interest rate of the bond that we get.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right, 2 plus 2%.
Plus 2%.
2%. So that, just so you know, it's not, that over time it does get more expensive.
And that 2% goes to the county for basically administering that part of it, as I understand.
Mr. Mayor, so are we currently at 4%? I thought I read that in the packet. Is it 4%? If people pay it over time?
No, that
No,
I
that
think
was the
would,
inflation rate in here.
Oh,
If you
Yeah.
took the 22 project at a 4% annual inflation rate to today's prices.
We would have, Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Torres, we would have the interest rate provided at the final assessment hearing.
Okay.
And I don't recall what because you would go based on the bond rate from the
Yeah.
2022 bond. I don't recall what that was.
Okay.
Can I ask a quick question? I'm seeing down at the bottom, it says 2022 project average assessment was 5,936. Adjusted for inflation, 6677. I mean, I'm assuming I know the answer to this question, but I just want to clarify. The average assessment in this project seems to be significantly higher than that, like almost $2,300 higher than that.
Oops, pardon me. Yeah, so this is the average.
And so, why is it so significantly higher? I guess is my question. Yeah, no, I mean, I said, like I said, I assume I know the answer to this question, but I want to ask. I mean, it's
Sure.
that because that seems like that's not just inflationary. That there's an additional cost of materials. I'm assuming.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Cook, members of the council, so we certainly see, it's not quite so volatile now, but we did see some volatility with pricing. And so I think that with the council having received 12 bids on this project, you can have a level of comfort that you've had a lot of eyes on this project. Included in the packet was a summary of all the bids received. This is just, the 4% is, you try to go 3 to 4% inflationary costs, and we certainly see some construction inflationary costs that exceed that. So I picked my 4% just as a baseline of what you typically apply to inflation, knowing that construction is a little more volatile, obviously, than what we saw with that 2022 project.
Mr. Mayor, so Allison, again, new guy question, I apologize, but once the bids come in and one is accepted, like the slowest one is accepted, can they just withdraw it? Like, for example, they go, oh, wait, Terrace, we're withdrawing. Can you kind of just very 50,000 foot walk me through what that means?
Sure. Mr. Mayor, members of council, so the council, this evening, we're not asking you to have a contract. That would be, we've typically brought that forward with the assessment hearing. So by accepting the bids, you're acknowledging to the bidders, yeah, we've received this, we're still moving forward, and the bidders know of that schedule. As far as the assurances that the council can have that the contractor's not going to say, oh, geez, I don't want to do this. Part of the requirements in bidding this project is that they submit a bid bond. And so if they go and pull their bid, they forfeit their bid bond. And I would certainly work with legal counsel. I haven't encountered that, but those are the assurances in place to know that they're a responsible bidder.
Okay, thank you for that education. That totally makes sense. I knew there had to be something in there for that.
So I guess first up, are people looking at spread equally or individual alleys?
So, can I see the slide right before this one, please? So the aggregate.
I tried to get everything on one slide, but it didn't fit the rule of a slide deck where you could read it very easily. I had to split it into two.
Oh, and I'm sitting there looking right in my packet. All right. Mr. Mayor.
I just want to ask a quick question. So during this presentation, is there one of them that represents an average assessment across all the properties? Is that reflected in here? If that's our methodology, one of the methodologies that we're talking
That
about?
was the second slide she showed.
Correct.
That was the 8,000.
Okay,
The 86,
86.
67.
This one here.
okay.
And I had that number included in the packet because that one was an easy one to get right away after the bid opening. It was the breakdown per alley that took some more time after going through the bid documents.
Mr. Mayor.
Yep.
So if the properties, I'm kind of thinking out loud a little bit here, but if the properties are relatively the same size, that tends to lead me more towards the aggregate because everybody's kind of chipping in, everybody's kind of getting the same thing, and you're not really, it's not a luck of the draw that you happen to live on a block that has a couple less houses and all of a sudden you're paying way more, vice versa. So, lawyer answer, without a complete committal, that's where I'm leaning. I'm leaning towards the
Yeah,
aggregate.
and traditionally, we haven't done that, but for that reason that it's one group, alley to alley to alley, alley, just because you have less homes. It would, at that point, that's why we asked to look at this on a aggregate rather than individual.
Mr. Mayor, if I may just, to provide some context to what Councilmember Torres just brought up, there are 4 properties out of the 56 that are wider than a typical lot. And then the other challenge that's presented on, let's see, it would be 1, 2, 3, on 4 of the alleys is where the long part of the lot is adjacent to the orientation of the lot is such
deep.
that the short section of the lot is on the street, not the alley, and so you're seeing that frontage of a lot of adjacent to the alley for another
We have a
4,
Mr.
5,
Mayor,
6.
We have a lot of unique circumstances when you walk up and down these alleys, and you know, in the sense of, you know, I mean, I think about your house is impacted by this project, is it not? No, not this one.
No, already.
But we have
already
you
got
got the
mine
last
done.
one. You got the
Yeah.
last one.
I'm already paying on that one.
But I mean, you have situations like your situation where, I mean, you don't even access the alley, right?
Yeah, I have
And
no
so
access.
we've got houses along these alleys that they don't even really use the alley per se. And then we've got houses that the alley is their main, in and out for parking. And so it's tough when you're in one of those houses where you've got a fence along that alley and you don't ever access that alley. And now you're getting a $8,600 assessment on an alley that you don't ever even use. But I mean, I understand it. You live on the alley, and so that's where it's like there's so many different ways you could discern the different properties and whether it be access to the alley, not access to the alley, this much square footage, this much square footage, and so without nitpicking things, then I think the easiest way is to just go, everybody is going to pay this. Now, the people that live on the alleys with more houses are going to be mad about that because now, they're going to end up having to pay more than people in the alleys without as many houses are going to be happy about it because they're not going to pay as much. The people that don't use the alley are going to be pissed about it no matter what because they don't think they should be paying for an alley that they don't use. And so, it's an interesting conversation for sure.
Yeah, because most street projects are per unit assessment
Right.
for residential homes. Commercial is per lineal foot.
That historically has been spread across the entire project. That's how that calculation is made. That's why I have a tendency to gravitate more towards a uniform assessment across the whole project. Yeah, for sure. I mean, to your point, the performance of this particular responsibility up here is that you have to realize that somebody's always gonna be mad at you for something, and so then it goes back to what's the most equitable way to approach this. And my personal perspective is to split it amongst all the properties. That's just my personal preference. Acknowledging that, yes, some people will be paying a little bit more, some people will be paying a little bit less. But that seems to be the most equitable way to approach this. And again, one of the reasons is that, for me personally, is that the contractor is here. They're mobilized for one thing. They're not coming back a bunch of different times. And so that's going to help make this in there. I just think that, the only way to potentially make this less problematic when it comes to sleeping at night is to really determine whether you want it to be equitable or any of these solutions are an equitable solution based on the fact that, when you live in a city, unfortunately, you've got public infrastructure that needs to be maintained. I just want to say that, historically as well, when it came to alleys, when we started doing the alley projects, it used to be assessed at 100% because there's very little traffic that's going down these alleys that doesn't directly benefit the people that are there. I mean, not many people just go cruise the alleys, right? As a cut through for things. So that's just my personal opinion is that just kind of splitting it aggregate across there. And then, the next thing that we have to, if that's the consensus, then we have to figure out what percentage you want to assess this at. I just have reservations if we start pushing the assessment policy down versus, and I know we've talked about this, I don't think that it's reflected here, is that, do we want to utilize some of the additional bond proceeds from the other one to possibly just take our part, put it in there, bring the whole thing down, and then figure out what we're gonna do as far as paying the costs up front. And I think that makes some sense, and then we still have to, from the budgetary perspective, going back, I think it's, currently we're paying about $50-some thousand a year on the 2024 bonds, the city's portion, that then we get some of that back through special assessments and things like that. So I don't really know what the right way to go here is. I don't know if we decide to take some of that money, put it in the project, bring the entire project cost down outside of taking care of the part that we're already paying on that. Does that make any sense, or does that just complicate this whole thing a lot more?
No, I don't think it complicates it at all. In fact, I think it's something that we have to think very, very seriously about. And I say that because I agree with you. I think that it used to be 100%. We took it down to 80%. It's a slippery slope. Like how far do you keep going? Or do you as a city look at each situation, case by case in the situation of how much money the city has, what does the current economic times look like, different things like that, and use all these different things to look at and say, hey, wait a second, like, could we ease because the reality of it is, I mean, I'm not a great mathematician here, but you lower this to 75%, maybe even 70%, but like 75%, the numbers are still higher than what was being paid in 2022. I mean, it's still going to be more than 2022. But I think you're making up for some of the increase in cost of materials and different things that obviously have gone up, which have caused the bids to have to go up and things like that. And I wouldn't be saying that if there wasn't this money out there that we could potentially use to maybe ease the burden of our citizens a little bit. That's unique to this situation. That's a situation we didn't have in 2022. And so I think that's something that we at least need to talk about. And the logistics of things is one thing, but I think we would be doing a disservice to our constituents if we didn't at least have that conversation.
Mr. Mayor, so Councilmember Schultz, I agree. I think it's really worth our time to, at a minimum, look at what we can do with that money to help bring the numbers down. And that itself actually even further pushes me towards the more equitable solution of just everybody puts in even share, because that bonded money, if it does, everybody's going to, in this project, everybody is going to benefit from that. So if they're going to benefit equally, let's charge them equally. That's again the direction. That even makes it more so I'm in that direction for equal split.
Mr. Mayor? Yep. I just want to be straightforward. I don't want you to get confused that this money out there that we have sitting here, the $680,000, can be used to buy down assessments. You pick the assessment, whatever you wish tonight. We will finance it later with monies for the city portion. So if you want to say we've got extra money, which really we don't, it's a bond from 2022. We just haven't used all the proceeds. We've been making payments on it since 2022. So let's just, in general, 60%. Let's say you went with 60%, okay? So can you pull up the next slide? So the approximate cost for the city went from 121,300 to 243, okay? And then there's the storm sewer, which is another 300, which we have cash for. Okay, so now we're talking financing. This is something I've learned in the last few days. The bond or the assessments are the same, and we won't get those for 15 years. So we have to prepay as a city. We either bond for it, all of it. We can use a portion of the proceeds from the 2022 bond to cover costs. Okay, but we're not going to be buying down assessments. We can up what the city has to pay, and that will then, under this assessment policy, that's where you have to bring down your decision on percentages will bring down assessments.
Yeah,
And that's it. There's no buying down later. There's no, this money that we have in the 2022 bond that's left over. We've discussed some different ways of using that, but we could bond for the whole thing just like a normal street project. Which in the end's about $1 million or so with everything on top of, I think, isn't it? Or ish, like with all the overages and things like that. I think that's probably in there. So, yeah, you're looking at close to $1 million. So what you're doing is you're looking at as bid there, the surface improvements, we would just pay a bigger portion of it. And so that would be it. So your assessment decisions tonight will only really affect the assessments. They're not going to affect how we finance that. We can't, we have some extra money there, but we don't, that's only going to be used to help with our portion to pay for this.
Mr. Mayor, I want to be very clear. That is, I understand exactly what you're saying. What I am arguing is maybe the city needs to pay a bigger chunk. And that's all I'm saying, which then in turn, is my understanding, wouldn't require as big of an assessment.
Correct.
Yeah, and that's I'm not trying to buy down assessments or house by house or this, that, or thing. I'm just saying if there's money that the city is able to use to maybe contribute a little bit more to this project, understanding that costs of materials and different things like that have gone up significantly since 2022, that maybe we want to look to do that. That's all I'm saying. I'm not trying to buy down I understand what you're saying.
Okay.
Yeah, and we're not really, I mean, to that argument, we're not buying down anything. We're just choosing how much of that money we're gonna put towards towards the program, which then reflects the assessment aspect of it. So, on that slide there, if we go back to the other one, the general one there you go. So if we went with a 50% overall assessed, we'd be at 303,400 as far as the approximate cost. That's what the city would pay on this, right?
Well, yes, in the end, once we've collected all of our assessments 15 years from now.
And
But
with, and we're still gonna have to bond no matter what, because we don't have the money to pay all of this stuff up front and then just get the other stuff back based on that. So it would just affect what we would have to bond at the current rates, which are like, I don't know, I would imagine they're gonna be higher than 4%. But it just is less money that we're gonna have to bond for, and if we bond for that, that bond money is what we have to build into our budget on our debt service side of things.
So, Mr. Mayor, quick question on that. So if it was 50%, 303 for city cost, we have to put the money up front. I'm with you. I'm understanding that. Would we still actually need a bond, though, if we tapped into the whole 680? Because if I double 303.4, that's under 680. So would we have to go into
So
debt?
that's just this part of it. So then you have to also add in the full assessment amount for the properties into that. So yeah, there's no way that we can get out of this without having to bond to cover that cost, because we just don't have that kind of money sitting around.
Okay.
Because we got to pay for the residence cost up front and get paid back over the 15 years. That then would help us in paying that amount per year.
Right, but that's what I'm asking. Since it's 303, represents 50%, doesn't that mean if you add up all of the 15 years worth of money, that's 303 as well?
I don't think it includes the storm sewer costs. So your 606 is right here, but then you got to add in that storm sewer
Right, the
cost.
storm
Mayor.
sewer's from a different.
Go ahead.
Yes.
My apologies, Mr. Mayor, Council. So here's the total project costs. The surface improvements at just over 606,000. The storm sewer amount, the 378. There is a storm sewer fund that has, I believe it's about 900,000 in it right now. So the council could choose to use the storm sewer fund, utility fund, to cover that 378, with the surface costs at 606 to be, as the council directs, either from the remainder of the 2022 bond and any portion that might be within the road fund.
So that would prevent us then potentially from bonding from this project at all.
Mr. Mayor, yes, that's true. Ms. Councilmember Schultz, yes, you are correct. But we have some other things with our levy and debt service that we have some other options that we're going to bring forward on the 14th. And that's why I said I didn't want to get into finance as much tonight.
Good luck.
I know. I didn't want to get into finance as much tonight because Rebecca has some, and that's something that we've talked about with the budget committee at a prior meeting with these bond proceeds and what we're going to look at. And so there may be just some different, again, I don't want to mix finance with assessments, because assessments are what they are. You just tell us. And then if you lower the assessment, that just means the city's end goes up, which is fine. I mean, the project stays the same cost. We're going to still have to come up with $1 million to cover the project, 960 some thousand. How we do that, we'll talk about on the 14th. Because we could bond the whole thing, we could pay out of storm sewer, but that's a discussion that we need to have here at the council for you to give staff direction on how you want to do that. But the city's costs overall, if we recover all of the assessments, will be that 300 plus whatever, but that's going to be 15 years from now. Could be. I mean, some people prepay, some don't. I mean, it just, we still have to pay off that, whatever that amount is. So your decision tonight is how much do you want the residents to pay? And then how much do you want the city portion to be?
And keep in mind, the city is the rest of the residents.
Yes.
Right.
It's not just.
Right.
You know,
It's,
I mean,
yeah, it's not
It's
just.
not just a pot of money.
Well, and that's where I'm like, when you say, well, we don't want to talk about too much about budget and too much about finance. And to me, these things are all kind of one conversation. And I understand what you're saying, but like, I don't see these two conversations as exclusive of one another. I think that there is a real conversation to be had about Because my understanding, if I'm understanding correctly, is that the residents that are gonna be assessed are not only gonna be assessed for this project on the alley, but then ultimately when we start doing other, I mean, the bond, all these, that's gonna impact them as well, right? I mean, when we start talking about that, all the city residents are gonna do this, and then these, part of all of these city residents are also gonna be assessed at 80%. And so that's, I guess, where I'm trying to figure out, you know, if we have the ability as city leadership to minimize the impact on the resident, I don't know, I guess I want to make sure that we're exploring all of those options.
And-
At least having all of those discussions.
And Mr. Mayor, you're correct. If we bond, we're gonna bond. I mean, it's a bond from 2022, or it's a 2025 bond. And in every project that paying back those bonds goes citywide to our levy. I mean, that's how we pay off our bonds, unless they're for a specific fund, which could be stormwater, storm sewer, you know, it could be a lot of different things. And so I've been told that we can cover that, and we have the proceeds to cover the storms water. That's not a problem. That's been split out. And the rest is just gonna be up to you as a council on the 14th to decide how we wanna pay for it.
So, Mr. Mayor, does this, once we decide on this number, does it work the same way as kind of like the regular budget where you pick a number, you can't go above that number, but later after we have this thing in April on the 14th, and we figure, okay, this is how we're gonna do the financing, can we lower that number?
The 14th will be the assessment where it'll be the residents say, this is what your assessment's gonna be. And
Right.
then we have to figure out, we have to figure out how we're paying $1 million.
Right, so okay, maybe I didn't phrase the question right. Okay, so if we, for example, we say, okay, we all decide we're gonna do 80%, it's gonna be aggregate. We decide that tonight, we vote on it, that's where we go. We have the financing part of the meeting, and we go, okay, well, actually, we are gonna use all this, and is it possible that after we've decided 80, is that like no turning back? Once you say 80, it's 80, you can't decide later that, well, actually, now that we know we're gonna do some other stuff with some other monies, we can actually drop it to 60 because we can afford to do so? Or is it, once you say it's whatever percent, that's it, there's no going back? I'm trying to understand procedurally how that works.
Regulatory.
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Torres, thank you for the question. So that actually speaks to the later part of the council action that's being requested. So procedurally, this evening, we would ask you to declare the total cost to be assessed, which is included in the resolution. And in talking to the city attorney earlier today, knowing that there would be a lengthy conversation on assessment methodology, I was assuming that number would change. And so that would be revised based on whatever council direction is given this evening. So then what happens next is we advertise for that public hearing, that assessment hearing, which includes the amount that'll be assessed. And then each property owner is then notified of the proposed final assessment amount. Now, to answer your question on, can you change that assessment amount at the assessment hearing? Yes, you can. You can go lower, not higher.
Thank you. That's
You're welcome.
exactly what I was trying to understand. All right.
I just wanted to explain the procedure as well, because you have to declare those costs, and then we give notification based on that amount. And then at the hearing, if the council directs to reduce the assessment, you certainly have the right to do so.
So, Mr. Mayor, with that in mind, I would tend to be more conservative with this, go higher now, and then let's see how the numbers work out after we talk all the finance stuff. And then if we can go lower and we're legally allowed to do so, then that would be, to Councilmember Schultz's point, that's being pragmatic and helping people out with the times we're in, et cetera. So I'm going to throw it out there just to see if it sticks. I'm going to make a motion that the methodology that we use is going to be the aggregate. Is that correct? Where everybody's paying the same. This is the aggregate methodology, and we'll start with the 80%. what happens from there.
Is you're declaring the cost part of that motion as well?
Is that, yeah, how do I do that? I do the cost number, or do I do the percentage? I think it's the cost number, right?
Mr. Mayor, the first resolution is to declare the cost to be assessed. And then the second one would be to call for the public hearing. So I believe you typically do two different motions with that.
Okay. So I'll Mr. Mayor, I'll rephrase my motion. So I would like to
Rescind
make,
and make a new one?
yeah, I'm going to make a new one.
Okay.
So I'd like to make a motion that, and where's the number at? Where's the
Page
dollar?
79, I don't know if it's,
Mr. Mayor, if I may. So upon speaking to the city attorney today about this, what the city attorney indicated is that the council could consider declaring the cost to be assessed, and that the actual number to be assessed would be updated by staff based on the council direction. So I just answered my own question, though, because we're assessing 80%, the total aggregate number, the total amount assessed stays the same.
Yeah.
It's just how we're dividing it up. Okay, my apologies.
yeah.
So are we making a motion to assess $485,396.01?
That's correct.
That number. So to rephrase my motion, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we are approving, or no, are we approving?
You're declaring the cost to be
Declaring.
assessed.
We're declaring the cost that the city will be assessed of $485,396.01.
Okay, we got a motion by Councilmember Torres declaring the cost to be assessed and ordering the preparation for proposed assessments of the 2025 alley reconstruction project in the amount stated.
The amount stated. Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Is there a second? And I'll second that. Any further discussion?
So, Mr. Mayor, based on the motion, it seems that that would be in line with the resolution that's proposed, that's in our packet, correct?
Because that was at 80%. And declaring the cost to be assessed.
Another quick question, does this require a supermajority on this one, or is this just a straight-up majority?
I believe it's a simple majority. The only, if I recall correctly, the only supermajority component of an assessment is the, to order the improvement, which was after the feasibility report.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Yep.
I'm really, really struggling with this. I'm really wrestling with this. Just because it just seems, and I don't know, and again, the new guy stuff, so, to quote Mr. Councilman Torres, new guy stuff. I'm wrestling with the whole, we are gonna put this assessment number out before we've decided how we're gonna finance the rest of the project. That just to me seems so backwards. And so I don't know. I know that's on schedule for the next meeting. And I understand that for you guys to be able to put forth the information that you need to put forth, you need to have that, have a number there. It just seemed, I just can't wrap my head around. It seems like we're doing step C before we're doing step A and B, which would be determining what the city is going to contribute to the project, and how we're going to finance the project. And then based on that, that would determine how much needs to be left needs to be paid, which then we could then handle through assessments. And so, I don't know. And again, maybe it's just my primitive mind. I don't know. But I just, to me, I'm really, really struggling with the fact that we have to put this number out before we formally decide how we're going to finance the project and what the city's going to contribute and where that money's going to come from. It just doesn't sit right with me, I guess.
Mr. Mayor, I struggle with exactly the same thing, Councilmember Cook. I couldn't wrap my head until literally just a few minutes ago how that is gonna work, because it seemed backwards to me too. It's like, figure out what you're gonna do and spend, and then go figure out who you're gonna get it from. That was specifically why I asked the question about, once we do this, are we locked in, or do we have some flexibility? Which was the reason why I motioned for the highest amount, because I'm thinking about what I learned about how city budgets work, and where you have to give that amount, you cannot go above it. So you try to be more conservative with the number, because that's your absolute worst-case scenario, right? But we go into the financing discussion knowing exactly what we put ourselves on the hook for. Now let's find a way to start carving it and bringing it down, similar to what we did with the actual budget, right? Where it started like at this huge number. By the time Finance Committee got done with it, it was dropped way down. And I'll say that with my motion, in full transparency, I'm looking to do exactly that. It's, trust me, 80 doesn't mean has to be 80. 80 is like, we can go nowhere but lower than that. So awesome, let's do that. And since procedurally we have to do this anyway, that's kind of where I wrap my head around it. Like, okay, this is totally not how I would do it if I'm running a business, but this is how we have to do it. So, yeah, I get it. I completely get it. It seems backwards, right? But that was my rationale behind the 80%.
Mr. Mayor, let me ask a question. Excuse me. So there's three pieces of what we're looking to do tonight. Okay, there's the accepting the bids, declare costs, and call the assessment hearing. If we choose not to declare costs this evening, does that put any aspect of this project behind, and then we push the declare costs and the financing part? I don't see that really changes it, but maybe I'm just not seeing it.
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Schultz, so there is some flexibility in the schedule as far as when it comes to the assessment hearing. The assessment hearing can occur anytime, either prior to or during or after the project. So historically, it's been done in conjunction with awarding the contract. The reason I mention that the award of contract is that the bids are valid for 60 days. And so perhaps if the council wants to have a more detailed discussion on April 14th with regards to the bond, so that I think what I'm hearing from the council members, some council members, is when you declare the costs and we have those assessment notices go out, you would like it to be the lowest number that you're comfortable doing versus the 80%, if I'm paraphrasing correctly. And so if it's the council's desire to wait until there's that discussion on the bond, then my recommendation is that we would bring forward, and we certainly did this with the 2024 project, where the contract was awarded prior to the assessment hearing. So we can certainly bring that option forward. So the schedule here would be altered somewhat, that we would bring award of contract and then the assessment hearing after that.
So back to my original point, if we accepted the bids this evening and we called the assessment hearing, without jeopardizing the timeline of the process, we can declare costs potentially at the assessment hearing, correct?
You have to declare the cost prior to the assessment hearing,
Okay.
because we need to advertise how much of the project cost is being assessed and to prepare the
Mr.
assessment.
Mayor, would it, and again, I don't know how this all, would it be feasible to accept the contract tonight, or accept the bid tonight? We have a work session coming up, end of March. Could we not, at that point, really look and break down and talk about numbers for financing and what that's going to look like and what things could happen there?
We could, but a work session is not an opportunity to act on anything.
No, I understand that, but I'm just looking for an opportunity where we could, or at the next council meeting. You know, we have a council meeting on the 24th as well. Like,
Basically, you're asking the same question that I
yeah,
just asked.
I'm just wondering if we could. Is there a reason why we have to wait till April 14th to really discuss the financing part about this?
Mayor, council, yes, our finance people aren't available that meeting. That's why it was pushed to the 14th.
Mr. Mayor, the only thing I want to be cognizant of is, Allison, you said it was 60 days? We have 60 days to act on that bid?
Yeah, that's typical. I would certainly have to look in the specifications, but typically the bids are valid for 60.
So that's April, May. So we're not in huge danger of losing that number in the bid, because again, I want to be very conscious of current economic conditions. So,
Well, and if you don't mind, I don't think any of us are arguing against the bid.
Correct.
I mean, I think we're all in agreement that this is the bid we want to move forward with. So I don't have any issues moving forward with the bid and saying, yeah, lock us in, let's do it. And it's just a matter of how we're going to pay for it. And it sounds like we have some conversations about the creativity of what we're going to do there as a city with the funds we have available and the resources we have available, and come up with a plan. We understand the cost of the project. We understand the bid. We're okay with both of those things. Now let's really sit down as a group and hammer out all the different potential options for us to attack this thing and try to minimize the impact on our constituents as much as we can, if we can. Maybe we get to the heart of all of this and we hash everything out and we look at all the different options and we go, you know what? There isn't another way to do this. Unfortunately, we just got to bite the bullet, and this is what we got to do. And but at least we can spend a little time talking about that as we talk about the options that we have to move forward. So, because I think that would clear us from the 60-day window. We would be good with that.
Basically, you could accept bids, clear costs, but you don't call the assessment hearing, and that's how you get around it.
I wish Attorney Teachin would be here.
Yeah.
No,
My
because the declaration of cost needs to happen prior to the assessment hearing.
Yeah, I would recommend
But
that.
that's what I'm saying, you don't call the assessment here until we have the number figured out, then you can call the assessment hearing.
and Mr. Mayor, to Councilmember Cook's point, we could get that on the agenda for the next meeting. That gives us time to discuss,
But the
figure it out.
finance people
Finance people
aren't.
can't be
not
Oh, the
available.
finance, okay. Are they available for the meeting?
That's the
The
April
14th, right? 14th, and then we would have to vote. That pushes, we're still within May.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, if the council's leaning towards delaying action on this until a future date, my recommendation is I will go back and verify in the contract documents that it is indeed 60 days. But we could certainly look at an award of contract on the 14th or sooner if the council would like to do so. And then get the assessment discussion take place at that meeting, and then it would be at that, well, it would likely be at a subsequent meeting then to bring back to declare the cost to be assessed and call the assessment hearing.
Could that be done on the 28th, which would be our next meeting after the 14th?
Yes.
That's enough
Yep.
time?
Yep. So what that would look like to the council is then the 28th, you would see resolutions similar to what you see in the packet, updated to reflect what the council discussed at the meeting, and then we would have an assessment hearing then in May instead of April because of the notification requirements.
I 100% will honor the fact that this is maybe not ideal, and that I know how frustrating it can be when you have a timeline and you bring it to a meeting expecting that timeline to go through. I just got to be able to look my neighbors in the face and say, hey, we did everything we possibly could. We had all the discussions that we possibly could. And I can't realistically push something through because of a timeline that has to be met because the finance people can't be here at a particular meeting. If that means we got to push it out to the next meeting, then I think that means we got to push it out to the next meeting. That's what I feel most comfortable with moving forward, because I feel like then we would be doing our due diligence. Right now, I just feel very, very uneasy about declaring any assessment costs tonight when we still have some conversations that have to happen about how we're going to finance this whole project. That's just my opinion. I might be alone. It could be a 3-1 vote. I have no issues with that. But I'm just saying that's how I am feeling about this thing. And I know that that's probably frustrating some people in the room, but it just is. I just feel off about approving some of this stuff without having some of that finance conversation first.
Mr. Mayor, my colleague, Councilmember Cook, is very persuasive, and that's good. And I'm kind of and Councilmember Schultz, please correct me if I'm wrong, I'm kind of feeling that sense that we need to do more before we put this to an actual vote. So procedurally, can I
rescind your
amend my
motion.
own, or rescind or?
You're just
amend?
going to rescind it.
All right, so I rescind my original motion.
Okay, Councilmember Torres rescinds his motion, and as the second, I'll rescind my second. So there's no motion on the table as of now.
And then they'd like to create a new motion that we
Can
table
I ask a
this
question
matter.
before
Oh,
you make that? So, Mr. Mayor, when you say that the declaration of cost needs to happen prior to the assessment hearing, is there a certain number of days?
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Schultz, yes. So it has to do with the publication requirements. So for an assessment hearing, it has to be published once, minimum 2 weeks prior to the council meeting where the assessment hearing occurs. And then we also have to mail notification to all those that are proposed to be assessed. And that notification has to be mailed out minimum 2 weeks prior.
So from a timeline perspective, we could still accept the bids this evening.
Not award the contract though, because we didn't have that included in a resolution, which you would have to do.
Right. So, and whatever happens with this, if we accept the bids, next meeting in April, award the contract, that's not going to do anything to the construction timeline.
No.
Because that's my biggest concern, because there's been a history, not with many people here, of just keep pushing this down the road, pushing it down the road, keep pushing it down the road. And that's not something that I'm really interested in doing. So understanding that and, just kind of dealing with the consternation of all this, I think I would want to accept the bids this evening and then move the, we can have the conversation about awarding the contract, move the assessment hearing later, and that would still keep us on time, allow everybody to get their questions answered. The reason I'm not really in favor of like tabling this and pushing it down is that it doesn't, what we really want to know is we want to have the finance people here to ask the questions. And pushing it to a future meeting without them here doesn't accomplish anything.
Nope, I agree.
And we won't, if we push it to the next meeting, we're still not going to make a decision, is the feeling that I'm getting. So I would, if that sounds okay, realizing this is a very difficult conversation, and this is the first time that you guys have really been through something of this magnitude, for sure. I respect that. So I would make a motion to accept the bids this evening, and pretty much that's it. And I don't believe that that requires a resolution. But I could be mistaken.
That's a procedural question. I do not know.
That is a procedural question, and without Attorney Teachin here, my recommendation is I think we certainly have time to, if a resolution was required, we could certainly work with Attorney Teachin to bring that back at the next meeting. I'll confer with her, but I don't think we have to have that as a resolution. I'm usually pretty.
Okay, but we're not sure. So I don't want to get any of us in hot water because, she had an emergency that came up this evening and couldn't attend the meeting. So it won't jeopardize the overall timeline. It'll allow us to get the information. We'd have to, if we move this whole resolution from tonight to the 14th, okay? They could answer our questions.
Or could we potentially move the accepting of the bids to the 28th,
Yeah, to the next
to our
meeting.
next council meeting? Or
'Cause
the
that's not
14th, or
finance,
24th,
we're
sorry.
accepting the
24th.
bids.
So we couldn't accept the bids tonight though, right?
But she doesn't know if it's a resolution or not.
Okay.
And we don't,
Yeah.
that's the question.
So we basically can table this whole action to the next meeting. So we can get the attorney here to help us navigate this, to make sure we're not,
think that's wise.
unintentionally trying to do the right thing, end up doing the wrong thing.
Yeah, which I think, correct me if I'm wrong, that was the motion I made, right? Was to table until next.
I stopped you before you made it, so.
Yeah, you had made a motion and he made a motion to accept the bids, but then that
I didn't make a motion to accept the bids.
so.
You
Yeah.
know, he was in the process of it, and I
Yeah.
said, can you hold off making that
Yeah.
motion until I can ask a couple questions?
Yeah.
Okay, so I
So,
think we're all on the same page. I'm going to make a motion that we table this so that we can take care of more due diligence. And we'll table this until next meeting? Next meeting.
Whatever you want.
Yes, next meeting.
Okay, so we have a motion by Councilmember Torres to table this item until next council meeting to bring forward, see how we can pull it apart and do it right. Is there a second?
second,
Second by Councilmember Schultz. Any further discussion?
it's
There's
a
a table,
table,
so you
so
can't
there's a
discuss
table.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes 4-0, so,
I just apologize to staff and everything else. I mean, I know how much work and preparation you did for this. We just, you know, with this unforeseen circumstance, I think that we would probably be able to act on it, but this is just
very
totally
unique
different.
challenge
Yeah.
on this one.
Yeah.
No, it's much appreciated. One thing that, I apologize, I meant to bring this up on the other slide. We are trying to facilitate Excel Energy in their plans to relocate some poles, and at their request, they've asked to have the easement staked, which would be an additional cost that we didn't account for in our original proposal. And I would like to see if council would authorize WSB to go ahead and it's up to $3,500 to go and stake the right-of-way for Excel so that they can make their designs, if that's something that's copacetic with the council.
I'd make that motion.
Okay, I got a motion by Councilmember Schultz to allow WSB to stake up to $3,500. Is that your motion?
Yeah, is that right?
That's correct, thank
Okay,
you.
what's she say?
Okay, up to $3,500 to stake right away for XL Energy. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Cook. Any further discussion?
Just, Mr. Mayor, just a real quick question. So what are we buying for the 3,500? Just because I was in,
Certainly.
it didn't,
So we've identified some utility poles that are in conflict with the alley construction and notified Excel Energy that the poles need to be moved. In order for them, because the corridor is only 16 feet wide, they would like the right-of-way staked, which entails a survey crew going out with their equipment to go and place the wooden stakes so that Excel can go and see, all right, we know where the easement line is, where can we move the pole? So it's getting all the sites on everything marked on site so that they can go and coordinate their utility relocation.
so there's probably a real simple logical answer to this, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Is there a reason why the utility, since they're making money from their utility, doesn't pay to do their own surveying to move poles?
I don't know what the Public Utility Commission requires in that respect, Councilmember Torres. This is something that did not catch me by surprise when they requested that, since it's a city project that requires the relocation. I know that the relocation costs are their responsibility, but as far as the cooperation between the city's consultant in this case, that's not something that I'm aware of, if it's something that we can require them to pay for.
And is that a legal question that legal counsel would find out? Is that something that you guys find out? And the only reason I'm not trying to be a stick in the mud with $3,500 is still $3,500. And if it's something they should be paying for, or we can get them to pay for, why not, right? I mean, there's no timeline or anything that impacts either, right? I mean, it's a question we could get answered for next meeting.
Yes, so if Councilmember Torres and Mayor Poppy and council, we'd certainly like to get the right-of-way staked as soon as possible, if that's something that's the council is comfortable authorizing, and then I can do some investigation and bring that information back at the next council
Can I ask a
meeting.
quick question?
Yep.
Are we able to act on this with it's not on the agenda? Would it be something that we would have
Yeah.
to add to the agenda? So
Yeah.
that's my question is,
Is that part of,
I mean, is it included in this
Yeah.
accepting bids, declaring costs?
Mr.
Or is
Mr.
it-
Mayor,
Yeah.
my apologies. I did not include it in the resolution. It is noted in the packet on page 3 of the memo. it says staff recommends that survey work be authorized in effort to keep the utility relocation ahead of the project schedule. Certainly, if the council is not comfortable to the point that this was not something that was specifically listed on the agenda, we could certainly we would delay it 2 weeks and bring it back.
But this, to your point, it is in the packet.
It is
for this
in the
evening,
packet, it was
So
not-
therefore, it technically is on the agenda.
It's on page
We're
76.
just ripping it all apart.
Right.
And, you know, whether we authorize it or not, doesn't preclude WSB from talking to Excel and saying, you know, hey, what's up with this? And, you know, at that point in time, we're out 3,500 the grand scope of this project. But since it is in the packet, technically it is.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify.
That's my interpretation.
Yeah.
Is it's
I just
technically
wanted
on
to
the agenda.
clarify, that's all.
And that really is a ruling by the mayor, so.
Yeah, I mean, it's on page 76.
So I guess what I would like to do is I'm not opposed to the 3,500, but I do want to have a little more due diligence. So can I amend the motion to
You
at least?
can't, you got a first and a second, he'd have to amend it, so you
so-
could suggest it.
So I would suggest, I would just suggest that we somehow inclusive in that is going back to Excel or going to our council and saying, hey, is this something they should be paying for, right? Again, it's their pole, they're making the money off of that electricity. I think Excel can afford $3,500 to put some stakes in the ground.
So my motion is an up to 3,500, doesn't mean it has to be 3,500.
That's correct.
Oh, okay, so
Yeah.
up to,
Yep.
yeah,
And then they can work those details
Yeah.
out on the backside, and then we can, the last thing in the world you want to do is push Excel anywhere. You know, because if we push them out and this is something that they've already talked about, and that is something that could jeopardize the timeline of this project.
gotcha, okay.
So I would not amend my motion.
And I understand that part, so I guess as long as there's just a tacit understanding, it's like, this isn't just a blank check for 3,500, go do it, I'm
Absolutely
cool
not.
with it then.
Yeah, it's up to 3,500.
Up to 30, yes, as long as it's up to 3,500.
Yep, that's how it was worded. Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes 4-0. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Look forward to that additional information. All right, 9C, approved grant writing proposal with Jay Murphy.
Council, at the February 24th council meeting, staff was asked to bring this item back to the March 10th council meeting. The council had a couple questions regarding two areas. One was to see some of the work that Jay Murphy has done with other municipalities, and a question about the monthly retainer. I did get some examples which are put into your packet as far as the past history with some of their grant writings. One was for the city of Chicago, and then one was written for some Hennepin County funds. I did speak to Jay Murphy, about a retainer, and they felt that they would like to start off without one, just in the event that we're gonna have months that we're gonna use them, and then months where we may not. And so that gets to be, if we're doing months where we don't use them, we'd still be paying that retainer amount. And so they felt we could always go to that if we start to see, we are using them every month and we've kind of got a general idea of what those costs are. They just felt that was better to look at later in our dealings with them if this is how it's going to work. They just feel that, certain projects, certain months, they're going to be busy, and then, other months, once the projects or the grants are written, then you just have to sit back and wait to see what the awards are. And so I'm asking for an approval to approve the proposal from Jay Murphy and Associates as our grant writer.
Questions, council?
Mr. Mayor, thank you, Councilmember Michelson, for getting the additional examples from them. And then I'm sure I know the answer to this one too, but I'm going to ask, so the two that they presented to us, those were ones that they did get the grant at the end of the day with those?
Yes.
Right, okay.
That's what I was
I knew
told.
the answer, but I just wanted to be super clear.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I think this grant writing is a huge step for us in the right direction. I think it could be immensely beneficial to our city. And I would like to make a motion to approve the proposal from Jay Murphy and Associates as our grant writer.
All All right, we got a motion by Councilmember Cook to approve the grant writing proposal for J. Murphy. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Torres. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes 4-0. All right, now on to 10A, approve submittal of cannabis application and memorandum of understanding with Red Pine Group.
Mayor, council, this is something that is coming up quite quickly. The actual application is due by the end of this week. What we're asking from the council is to give staff and the city attorneys who have been working tirelessly to put this all together, to allow the staff and the attorneys to finalize the agreement. There's a lot of back and forth. It's still kind of, OCM has been very difficult to work with as far as trying to nail these grants and expect or give them the information they need. We have been working with the Cannabis Committee quite frequently. Emails were even going out this morning, back and forth. And so what we're asking for is to give, is to approve the resolution giving city staff and our attorneys to work together to finalize the actual application and get that sent in. And then we have that memorandum of understanding that is intended to provide the OCM with the information and assurance it needs to review and approve the city's application, since we are going to be using a third party. There's some questions on how that needs to work, and an official contract until we actually have a license. We would be coming back at a later time for an official contract to help us start and set up our cannabis store.
Questions, council?
Mr. Mayor. I love contracts. This looks really, really good, just personal opinion, but read through the whole contract, looks really, really good.
So this is just a memo of understanding.
Or
This isn't-
memo, okay, so it's a really good looking MOU. But as these stickler contracts, there are two grammatical errors that I just want to point out on page 2 in section or paragraph 3, last sentence, where it says, "At no time with RPG gaining ownership," the word "with" should be "will," just so that we have that, so when this gets done, that gets fixed. And then the following sentence, "Nothing contained herein shall be construed as permitting the RPG." The word "the" can be crossed off. Nowhere else in the contract, RPG is always referred to as RPG, and there's no "the" in front of that one, so we would just cross it out. And I know those are just little picayune, but that's my job outside of council, is to be picayune with contracts. Just pointing that out.
So, Mr. Mayor, I don't think those grammatical changes affect the substance of this at all.
Not at all. Zero. It's just a matter, just if we're gonna have it, let's make it right. But no, to answer Councilmember Schultz, it impacts it not at all.
Mr. Mayor, as a member of the Cannabis Committee, I have been privy to a lot of the communications that have gone on and the dealings between City Administrator Michelson and Councilmember Schultz and Attorney Tinjum, and the amount of work that's gone into this to make sure that it is what we need as a city to move forward with this has been incredible and has been incredibly impressive. And the due diligence that has been done with this has been amazing. I am 100% in support of this. I think it's really, really good, and I'm excited to move forward with it. So, if I could,
Yes.
I would like to make a motion to approve the resolution and approve the memorandum of understanding.
Okay, got a motion by Councilmember Cook to approve the application and memorandum of understanding with the Red Pine Group. Is there-
With the suggested
With the
grammatical
With the
corrections.
suggested grammatical changes.
With the suggested grammatical changes, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Torres. Any further discussion?
I just wanted to echo what Councilmember Cook said. There's been, I stopped short of using the word exhaustive amount of effort regarding this, but, I think there's a lot of kudos that can be given between, our city attorneys. We've had a couple of them that are involved in this. And then coming with this memo of understanding, originally Red Pine wanted us to come with a full contract, and but there was parts of the contract that they were not comfortable opening up publicly, which is why we went to the memo of understanding. They called it basically trade secrets that they weren't willing to do at that point in time. And I also stand in full support of this. I just want to thank staff and then fellow Councilmember Cook for his time in doing all this stuff. And, it's just, we just have to move this ahead, in my opinion, so.
Okay. And Mr. Mayor, I also want to echo those sentiments. I applaud this. This is just a very, very well written out letter of understanding and ultimately the contract that's going to come out of this. And it really puts city first. And I want to thank both council members and staff and Attorney Teachin for doing that. It was very comfortable after I got done reading this. It looks really, really good. And you can tell there's a lot of hard work behind it. So thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments? If not, the roll, please.
Resolution number 12. Councilmember Torres.
Aye.
Councilmember Schultz.
Aye.
Councilmember Cook.
Aye.
Mayor Poppy.
Aye, motion passes 4-0. All right, 10B. Approve council vacancy and open for applications.
Mayor and council, on February 20th, 2025, staff and the council received the attached letter from Councilmember Holstrom. It has been established that Councilmember Holstrom has not attended a council meeting in over 90 days. By Minnesota State Statute 412.02, Sub 2B, the council has a choice to declare a vacancy and accept applications to fill that vacancy. Below is an excerpt, or on the agenda, you can see the excerpt of what has been written from state statute, and it says Minnesota Statute Section 412.02, Sub 2B, states that a vacancy in the office of mayor or council member may be declared by the council when the office holder is unable to serve in the office or attend council meetings for a 90-day period because of illness or because of absence from or refusal to attend council meetings for a 90-day period. If any of the preceding conditions occur, the council may, after it has by resolution declared a vacancy to exist, fill the vacancy at a regular or special council meeting for the remainder of the unexpired term, or until the person is again able to resume duties and attend council meetings, whichever is earlier. When the person is again able to resume duties and attend council meetings, the council shall by resolution remove the temporary office holder and restore the original office holder. If the council decides to declare a vacancy, staff would like to accept applications from March 11th through April 8th to have those applications ready for the April 14th city council meeting. This will give staff time to accept the applications and for the council to contact applicants. And so I'm opening it up to what the council would like to do.
Yep, council?
Mr. Mayor.
Yep.
So, in reading Councilmember Hultstrom's submission today, I mean, it's clear to me that she, at least at this moment in time, appears to want to come back to council. I think it's important, in my opinion, has been really swayed as far as public comment to me regarding, opening this, declaring the vacancy. I would oppose appointing somebody else at this point in time because it's a lot to digest and it's a big process to go through. It's a lot of staff time to put somebody in that could just, legitimately they could do all this work. We could spend all this time, do all this stuff, and then all of a sudden Councilmember Holstrom could just, as she gets better, could just walk in and then this person will be done. So I don't see the necessity at this point in time to fill it. And in the statute, it does say the council may, after it has been resolution declared as vacancy, it may fill the vacancy at a regular or special council meeting. Doesn't mean shall. Doesn't say must, it just says may. So we do have some wiggle room in that respect. So my personal opinion would be to go ahead and declare this, but not backfill it at this time.
Mr. Mayor, I came to a very similar conclusion. There's, in the legal world, there is a very big distinction between may and must, and I think the legislature knew that there would be situations like the one that we're experiencing right now, and why they put the may, because I think they left it to councils and local municipalities to figure out what's best for the community. And when I think of some of the points Councilmember Schultz made, echoing those, and also not just bringing somebody up to speed, but it's the point where literally we bring them up to speed, and it's almost kind of like, not that she would, but somebody could effectively kind of represent without really representing. If that person that comes in is voting a certain way, maybe that person that's absent comes, or maybe they don't. If they started voting ways that that person necessarily didn't like, all they have to do is show up. And my point is that, and I want to be real, real clear, I am not making any aspersions or assumptions that this, I'm speaking specifically about Councilmember Hallstrom. I'm just saying that the way, the process this is, that could happen. Not to say it's going to, but it could happen. And as a big, big believer in representative government, I think back to when I myself applied for an open seat, and then subsequently I pulled myself out of it in reflecting about representative government. And I think when people vote people in, that's who holds that seat. So I would agree, I don't have a problem declaring the vacancy, but I would have a very, very big problem bringing somebody in for somebody else that's already been elected who could still come back anytime they want to. So I think I'm basically saying same thing you are, but a little bit different rationale.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest, I go back and forth on this simply because, I do think it is important to have that fifth chair filled. I think it's the more representation, the more dialogue you can have, the better. And I honestly, I wish more than anything that Councilmember Hallstrom was the one in that chair. She was elected, she should be the one in that chair. We want her in that chair. I think Councilman Hallstrom brings a lot to the table, and she brings a lot of perspectives that are important to us. And so I really want her back in that chair. And so, I'm willing to do whatever it is that we need to do as a council, but I guess I am inclined to say, but I'm also one that benefited from going through the application process and was able to get up here. And so I understand, I think my situation was a little different in the sense of that person was resigning and they were walking away, as opposed to somebody who just at the moment physically cannot serve and unfortunately has gotten to that 90-day window where we actually have to have this discussion. If there was no state statute about that 90-day window, we wouldn't be having this conversation, because I think we all want her in that chair and we all want her back. And so, the hope is that happens very, very soon. We just don't know how long that window is. But I will say, I do think it's an unfortunate situation for our community to not have somebody in that chair. And that's different than wanting Councilman Hallstrom in that chair, which I do. I just think that we owe it to our community to have a full council too. So, as she says, she hopes and prays that she'll be back with us soon. I am hoping and praying for the same thing.
Yeah, and I think what's different opposed to other times you mentioned, people were either moving or getting out, and so this is different, so.
Mr. Mayor, so hopefully I didn't accidentally slight my fellow council member. That was not intended at all.
No, I didn't take it that way.
So, yeah, I mean, it is a bit of a struggle, right? We want to do what's best for the community. That's why we're all sitting up here. I guess I would actually, one of the reasons I'm in agreement with declaring a vacancy, because the vacancy does exist, and we as a body acknowledge that there's a vacancy. I'm still remiss to fill it because there's another unknown. Okay, so back with you soon, what exactly does that mean? I think it would be good for us to get kind of a temperature, heat gauge on, okay, is this something the recovery is going to take another month, 2 months, 6 months? I mean, we're talking about a position that's still got better than 2 years left. So before enacting the May part of fulfilling the role, I understand Councilmember Cook's reservations about that empty chair, but I would rather know that if we had to fill the chair, this is why, because Councilmember Hallstrom comes back and says, look, I'm no way within 6 months I'm going to be there, which is a very different answer than, hey, I'm mending, the mending's happening, I'm getting out into the community. So yeah, maybe I'll be back in 6 weeks. So that's where my mind is at, is declare the vacancy, but we don't fill the position yet. We need to know more before we can fill that position.
Yeah, we'd love to have her back.
Yep. And that's the hope. Ultimately, the hope is we can have those opinions. I welcome, there's a respectful dissent, so it's good. It's not a matter of, good she's gone, good she's back. It's a matter of we got 5 people because that's how many people we're supposed to have. But I want the opportunity for her to come back sooner than later without the disruption, right? I mean, it's to Councilmember Schultz's point. We bring somebody in, staff has bring them up to speed. I've been here, less than 2 months, and I'm still drinking out of a fire hose, and I got some paid training down in Plymouth, and I'm still drinking from a fire hose. I'm asking new guy questions tonight. So we bring somebody in, is that fair also for the person that's signing up to do the job on a pro temp basis, right? Okay, so we're gonna bring you in, we're gonna make you try to understand and learn all these things that you're gonna have to do for good governance, and then without even knowing when, at a whim, you're gonna show up for a meeting, we're gonna go, okay, we don't need you anymore, right? That doesn't feel right either. That's putting somebody in a position almost to fail, quite frankly, and that person's vote could be questioned in the future. It's like, well, they know they have nothing to lose. They're lame duck coming in. So I think there's just, when I look at the balance, there's more for waiting and finding out and seeing what this absence really means, get some times on it versus, well, we got an open seat, so let's fill it. I get the rationale behind that, but I think when I weigh the two, the weight is still in the fact of we need the chair to be empty until we can really know what's going on. And I guess I'm in support of declare the vacancy, but we don't fill it yet. For those reasons.
Okay, would someone like to make a motion?
So, Mr. Mayor, kind of understanding what's going on here, I think, we do have a resolution in the packet. And as part of that resolution, we could go ahead with it, but then we could strike some language from the resolution. So looking at the resolution, it's included in our packet. As I'm understanding where we're at with this, I think would be, if we're looking at, would be page, 151?
151.
Which is where the resolution is. Under there, now therefore be it resolved, we keep in item number 1 and strike item 2, 3, and 4. I think that is my understanding. That would reflect the opinion that I'm currently hearing at this moment in time.
Well, I guess, Mr. Mayor.
Yep.
Quick question. And maybe I'm understanding this, do we have to do anything? Or do we just move forward with Councilmember Hallstrom's on the council? She just is physically unable to attend. I know it says after 90 days you can do something, but do we have to do something?
Mr. Mayor, no. Even the declaration of the vacancy is not required. The way the statute reads
That was
is
how I was
that
reading it, so
member
that's why I was
may,
questioning.
right? And that includes the vacancy piece. So a vacancy in the office of mayor or council may be declared. So since it's may, to your point, can simply just,
My concern with
Not do it at
my
all.
concern with declaring a vacancy and then not filling it is, to me, that looks like, I don't know, it just doesn't look, the optics of it seem as though you're trying to control, the situation. I don't know that makes sense. If we want to move forward with Councilmember Hallstrom as a part of this body, let's just move forward with Councilmember Hallstrom as part of this body, and as soon as she's physically able to come back, she comes back. That would be what I would seem to make sense. If we're going to declare a vacancy, let's declare a vacancy and let's fill it. I don't understand the need to declare a vacancy if you're not going to fill it.
so Mr. Mayor, I think the the declaring of the vacancy as a second item is simply just an acknowledgement by the body that there is an empty chair, right? It's not like, we don't know why. Why is this person not here? We're acknowledging for the record that one of the council members can't make it, so it's almost just a check the box kind of thing. At least that's how I read the statute. But to your point, if we don't need to do it and we're not going to do anything about it, why would we even do it in the first place? Which, again, takes me back to the May, right? So my position is, if the motion is to keep number 1 and strike 2, 3, and 4, I would be in support of that. If it's strike the whole thing, I'm in support of that. The thing I'm not in support of is filling the role at this time.
Mr. Mayor?
Yep.
Can I give you just a differential?
Yeah.
Just as far as declaring a vacancy means that the pay is not going to be paid,
Okay.
okay, to the person who's at home. But that would switch if you filled it to the person who's filling the vacancy. If you're not filling the vacancy, that's fine. I did ask Attorney Teachin to do that. And then there would be a cutoff of information if there's a vacancy, because it's just like there's nobody in that chair is what you're declaring. And so those are just the differences. If tonight you decide to declare a vacancy, then there would be that triggers those two things. Does that make sense?
Yes, no, that clarification is appreciated, thank you.
I'd just like to clarify that, that's the difference.
And I do believe, Mr. Mayor, I do believe that by declaring the bankruptcy, it's honoring what Councilmember Hultstrom asked for in her letter to us. Just saying she's stepping away from her role because she knows that she can't fill it at this point in time. But she wants to come back, so she's asking us, I believe, my interpretation, to declare it vacant, but then allow her to come back if she's able to. And if this is a longer period of time, it certainly opens the point for her to look at this and say, I just don't know if I'm going to be able to do it or not. And it doesn't put any pressure on her to do it either way. Because I agree with you. She was elected to represent the people. Nobody else was really elected. In other situations, we had somebody openly just resign. Okay, for whatever reason, doesn't matter. And that's kind of different, I think, in how this goes.
Yep.
And Mr. Mayor, so one question that comes to mind, and maybe this is for I want to say Mary, it's for Mary,
Attorney Teachin.
Attorney Teachin, is how, if the vacancy is just declaring that the spot is open, Councilmember Hultstrom is still council member as far as things like open meeting law, right? Or how does that play into this?
I think until she comes back, there's just a vacant spot there. She's still a council member.
Okay.
Okay, so that would still affect, I think, stay in effect.
Got it.
And if not, I can ask that of Attorney Teachin, but I have not heard of any issue that way, so.
Okay. Yeah, that's how much they hammer home open meeting law at the training, so. So, thank you. Yeah, if we can get that.
Okay, so,
So I'm just going to throw it out there so we can just make a decision one way or the other. However it works, the will of the council prevails. So I'll make a motion to approve declaring a vacancy of the council.
okay, we got a motion by Councilmember Schultz to approve the council vacancy. Is that correct?
Yes, but along with that, to address the resolution that our attorney asked us to pass would be along with the resolution striking 2, 3, and 4,
Yep.
just to be precise.
Yep. So we have a motion by Councilmember Schultz to approve the council vacancy and noted changes on the resolution in the packet.
Yep, we're striking 2, 3, and 4 in the
3
resolution.
and 4 in the resolution.
Yep.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second that.
Signed by Councilmember Torres. Okay, any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
It's resolution.
Oh, sorry, resolution. Yep.
So this will be resolution number 13. Councilmember Schultz,
Aye.
Councilmember Cook,
Aye.
Councilmember Torres,
Aye.
Mayor Poppy.
Aye, motion passes 4-0. All right, 10C, approved accounts payable. Questions on that?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the accounts payable.
Okay, I got a motion by Councilmember Cook to approve tonight's accounts payable. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Torres. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Oh,
Aye.
Aye.
okay. All those opposed?
It's a long night, man.
Only one here for a second. Did I just do
Motion
something wrong?
passes 4-0. All right, administrator report.
Well, I just wanted to show off our new patch. This is Autism Month in April. The officers will be allowed to wear this patch that we had made specially for that month. And this is the autism sign. So you'll start seeing our officers, actually what we're doing is we're allowing Velcro. And so on our uniform shirts and our patches will have Velcro on the back. It actually works pretty well, and they'll be able to change patches that Lieutenant Kinsey and I approve throughout the year if we have different months. I know we're working, I believe, on a breast cancer awareness patch, but I just wanted to show the council the new autism patch. I'd also just like to give staff a good shout out. We've been doing a lot of work behind the scenes trying to get all of this stuff together for you as a council. Our staff is working, as you can see, our city clerk is sitting for assistant city administrator Vickerman, and everyone has been very supportive. We've had a lot of conversations within staff about filling in for each other and just really supporting each other, and I think you can see it day by day. It's just the camaraderie is great, and I've been very impressed with our staff and what they've been able to accomplish and all the things that we've got that are coming out and the things we're resolving here in the first part of the year. Also, just as a report too, is I believe is at the end of March, the 31st, we're gonna have a goals session with council at that large work session. Just to keep that in mind, I'll send out an email to remind everyone to bring their goals of things that they wanna see in the next 2 years to that council meeting, but we're gonna be going over that with staff and coming up with just some projects and things that we wanna see forward and where everyone wants to see it. So I'm really excited about that meeting to hit the ground running and staff. Like I said, I've just been super impressed with our staff, from police to fire to public works to city hall. We're really starting to get our groove, and people are really working efficiently and effectively within each office, and I've been very impressed with that. So I just wanted to tell council. Thank you. That's the end of my report.
All right, thank you. Clerk, send hello. Any report?
Nothing for me.
Okay. Councilmember Torres.
Only thing to report is intergovernmental. I want to thank Administrator Michelson and Assistant Administrator Vickerman. We had a very, very successful conversation in St. Paul. There's going to be more to come on that, but I'm really excited that particular meeting went really, really well. And that's it.
Okay. Councilmember Cook.
Just a couple quick things. First, of course, I want to echo our city administrator's comments about the hard work of the staff. The jobs that we ask you to do, and I mean, you guys always get things done, and you respond to everything, and you do such a diligent job, and I'm just really, really grateful for that. It really is. It feels really good when you work hard to try to put a good staff in place, and then you see the fruits of it. And, that process of trying to get that office up to speed and everything was a long, challenging, and difficult process. But to see the fruits of the labor and to see it all kind of coming together like that is really, really great. And so I just want to thank you and your leadership up there for bringing that all together. Special personal thank you about the autism patch. I think that's really, really cool. I have a lot of people in my life that are affected by that, and being a teacher, you see it every day, and to see you guys doing that, It's really, really cool. So thank you for doing that. I want to thank Reserve Officer Melanie Barrios, who we accepted her resignation tonight in our consent agenda. But I want to thank her for the years that she gave to the city of Osseo. Again, commenting on what a great experience it was and how much she enjoyed it, and which I think speaks volumes to our police department. And then obviously our three wonderful officers that were honored here tonight, and what a special ceremony that is to be a part of. You know, again, as the son of a former police officer, you forget sometimes on how quickly things can change when you do that job. And so to be able to honor those three tonight, I think, and to be able to be a part of that was really, really special. Lastly, you know, I do want to wish Councilman Hallstrom well wishes. You know, we miss her. We think about her. We hope she comes back soon. And you know, it's hard to move forward here without her. But, you know, I've been fortunate to run into her in the community a couple times and to see her getting better every time and to see a little more life in her face every time you see her is great. But just, you know, keep her in your thoughts and understand that she is battling something that isn't easy to get through. And we hope that she comes back very, very soon. Other than that, I'm done. Thank you.
Councilmember Schultz.
Thank you. So I'd like to echo again some of the comments that made this evening regarding everything that's going on around here. I want to really offer a thank you to our police officers, all the work they do. It's great to see the exposure of the things they're exposed to. I think too often I see it all the time in conversations all over the place where people just assume that our police officers do nothing other than sit around and do nothing because it's quiet here. It's quiet here because they're here. Without their presence, it wouldn't be quiet, and it would be a significant change in the way that our city operated and the safety of our community. So I just wanted to say thank you to them. I also want to say thank you to city staff on their focus on specifically a subject that I've been a part of for many years, which is I like to see the significant forward progress towards cross-training and the different duties here. It's been something that we've asked for a long time, and it's nice to see some significant forward progress to understand the cohesive nature and that, you know, if one person steps out, we're not losing a beat. And that's a very challenging thing to accomplish, so I don't want that to go unnoticed. Additionally, if I didn't say something about this, I didn't see any announcements particular to community events on tonight's council agenda. But if I didn't say something about this, the person that I live with that's on the 150th celebration committee
I was going to make mention, but yes, go ahead.
would be angry. But just want to let the community know that currently there are tickets on sale for the 150th celebration baked potato bar and bake sale. For those who aren't really aware, is that our area was kind of pivotal during the, you know, prior to the great drought of the 1940s. And its fact is that more potatoes moved through Osseo than the state of Idaho at that point in time. You know, you think of Idaho as the potato capital, so they're just kind of paying homage to that historical perspective there. Tickets are on sale through any of the committee members. Definitely, if somebody interested in that, they can contact City Hall and they can put them in touch, or I know that out on, their Facebook page is out there, and then also on, I don't know if it's on Osseo Neighbors or not yet, but I know it did hit the Osseo Bulletin Board as far as some tickets that were for sale there. So the cost for that meal is $15. That's on April 5th from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. At the community center. There is a child price as well. That's, I think, $8, if I'm not mistaken. But I'd love to see a really good turnout for this. I know that Lynn's Catering is donating some of the food for this, so that'll help the committee as far as fundraising towards the endeavor that they want to do and the different activities and stuff. So just want to make sure that got mentioned out. Outside of that, I pass.
All right. Thank you. I guess the only announcement I have is good luck at the #1 seed state tournament this weekend for the girls. Councilmember Cook could bring home, even though it's Maple Grove, we'll still be cheering for you. So with that, moving on, adjournment.
Motion adjourned.
Second.
I got a motion by Councilmember Schultz, seconded by Councilmember Cook, non-debatable. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? We're adjourned at 9:18. Thank you.